Okay, thanks everybody. Uh, some of you probably know me. My name's Jesse. I'm a recruiter here at UVic, and I'm joined by my wonderful coworkers and friends and recruiters, Maggie and Richard. A lot of you will know them as well. Um, Hopefully, this presentation is going to help you just have a little bit better of an idea about the admissions cycle next steps. This is the presentation that we do offer students coming up shortly at this time of the cycle. We figured it would be a good idea to have you also be aware of the types of things that we let them know and the entire process, just as a nice refresher, because as you all know, it's a lot of information. We're going to get through this, and then we'll open it up for a Q&A within some breakout rooms, and you can talk to us recruiters a little bit more in depth. And so keep your questions until the end, write them down throughout the presentation, and we'll jump right into it. Welcome to you, Vic. Coast and Strait Sailors territory, something that we're always proud of, to be able to live and learn on this beautiful land. Just so you know, even at this time of year, it looks just like this. Maybe a few less leaves, but it looks just like this, even in the winter. We won't rub it in too much. But this is what we're going to talk about. So we're going to go through some next steps for guiding your students. We'll talk about some upcoming events, what's new at UVic, which is always exciting to talk about. And then we'll get into the Q&A. The Q&A, we're going to have Maggie and Richard within one breakout room, and then you can talk about BC requirements, or if you're from the Yukon as well. And then I'll be in a breakout room for the rest of Canada. Okay, so let's dive into the application process. It's pretty straightforward. I mean, a lot of you, because you've gone through this admission process with a lot of your students over the years, you'll probably remember that our admission cycle and application process is pretty straightforward and not too strenuous either compared to some others, but we will jump through it anyways, because there's lots to know. We'll go through the self-reporting process, which is for out-of-province students. I'll give you a couple of reminders on that, but then we'll touch on some scholarships, housing, accepting the offer as well as deferring, and then of course arranging for final transcripts. That's always very important, and for some reason, a step that lots of students forget each year. Speaking of a step that students often forget, you've probably encountered students like we have, which they're always, looking to try and check their application status or apply for housing or all these sorts of things, but may have forgotten to create their Netlink ID. This is a pretty early step within the admission cycle, but it is something that we do find students forget from time to time. It's really easy to create a uvic.ca/netlink. They will need this, though, in order to check their application checklist. If they're from out of province, they need it in order to self-report, to apply for housing, which opens on Monday coming up. They also need it to apply for scholarships, to register in courses, and to eventually be able to check their academic records as well. Okay, the very important step of how do they submit their grades? Well, just as a reminder, for all of the provinces throughout our beautiful country, we will be looking at 4 or 5 grade 11 subjects, 4 grade 12 subjects, or 5 or 6, depending on the curriculum. But also, students can be considered on their IB diploma. If they are taking the full diploma, they can choose which one they want us to look at. And they can be considered on one or the other. Always consult our website for any faculty-specific admission requirements, or talk to us recruiters for some confirmation as well, because we are paid to help you. Okay, from BC or the Yukon, you're fully aware of this, but let's just good refreshers. Student Transcript Services is what students go through. This is for early offers. This is for entrance scholarships. They must be received by March 15th in order to be considered for conditional admission and entrance scholarships. Major note is that if they're taking any distance courses online, they do have to have them completed by June 30th. Now, the thing about STS is when they choose UVic, they need to choose UVic till the end of the year. If they're put on hold this time of year, I'm sure some of you have been encountered already that your student has been put on hold. Don't fret. They will continue to do downloads periodically and throughout this admission cycle. And as soon as they can offer your student conditional admission, they will do so. So if they put on hold, definitely tell them not to worry. We will continue to do a download throughout this admission cycle and send them an offer. If as soon as they meet the requirements, we will do so. For other Canadian students, so outside of British Columbia, they still have to self-report their grades. So new this year for students across the countries, they were able to submit an interim transcript early and potentially receive an extra early admission offer. Even if they received that extra early admission offer, they still have to self-report. This is very, very important. If you have any of your students who have that extra early offer, like I've been meeting with lots recently, a lot of them still weren't aware that they have to self-report. We're going to make them aware, but if you can also help make them aware, that's very important. Again, this isn't for BC or Yukon students. This is for the rest of the country. But it is very important that if you're from out of province, that your students self-report between February 15th and March 15th. We'll dive more into this, what it looks like and how to do it. Another reminder, June 30th, distance courses, very important as well. Uh, and let's talk about some do's and don'ts. There are always some do's and don'ts. Do report grade 11 and 12 marks if you're coming from Ontario. Most of our programs only look at 6 4U or M courses. Some do look at, a couple of 3U courses like physics or chemistry, but they're going to report any required grade 11 or 12 mark. That's very important that they do that. If they make an error, they should contact their admissions assistant, but I do want to make a point here. If they self-report 90% and they're like, "Oh, I made an error, I actually got 91," do not contact your admission assistant. That's not really an error. It would be like if they put in 9% instead of 90%, that would be a big error. They should also check their email regularly for updates. Of course, they're going to do this, right? Students will do this and they will check their emails every single day and they will read every email every single day as well, of course. Okay. Uh, Another do, let me just move this for a second. For online courses, they do need to report these as a regular course if they're taking any online course that's through your school. If they're taking an online course that's taken outside of your school at a totally different institution, lots of students from Alberta might take an MEI course or a Blythe, they need to report that as a distance course. And they will end up being encouraged to have at least 50% of that course done when they're self-reporting. That's something to keep in mind. It's not a hard line rule. It's just a strong, strong encouragement because we want to make sure that they do have that online course done by June 30th. If it's not done by then and it doesn't show up in their final transcript, we cannot use it. And sometimes students take their time and maybe leave it to the last minute. Okay. They should as well report their IB curriculum or their high school. It's really up to them. If a student's doing the full IB diploma and they think it's going to give them a better chance of getting in because their marks might be higher, they should report that. If they think that their high school curriculum is going to be higher than their IB scores, then they should report that. They want to report the one that is going to give them the best chance of getting in. And I'll show this as well with some screenshots on where they choose this when they go to self-report. I'll show that shortly. They should estimate their final grades for anything in progress. Because self-reporting is from February 15th to March 15th, they're going to put in their completed required courses and those marks, and they're going to predict any grades that are in progress. Now, I get asked every year, well, I just started like a week ago this term. How do I know what to put in? Well, they can wait until closer to March 15th, or they can use an equivalent grade 11 course as a predicted grade. They could talk to their teachers as well. We do find that students are actually really good at predicting their grades. The one thing I do want to mention is that we always say try not to overinflate their predicted grades, but they shouldn't sell themselves short either. If they think they're going to get 85, they should not put 80 just to be safe. They should put 85. That's always very important in order to have that close assessment. They don't need to be safe. They just need to think, okay, I really think I'm going to get this at the end of the year. That's what they should put in as a predicted grade. They should not write in the notes section unless they really, really need to. If they're looking to complete a course maybe from a different institution online, out of province or something, and it's a certain course that they want to use to meet the equivalent from their home provincial curriculum, they could put a note in there to say, I'm using this one to satisfy this requirement. But what I will say about the note section is it will slow down the decision process. I would say probably 99.5% of students do not need to write in the notes section. Sometimes we get students that say, I can't wait to go to UVic, and they put that in the notes section. That's great. We can't wait for them to come here as well. But all it's doing is slowing down their decision process. So they really don't need to unless they absolutely think they need to. And even then, they probably won't need to. They should not enter a grade of 0. That's something that sometimes students are like, well, I haven't even started this. I'm just going to put 0. No, again, they predict their grades for anything that's in progress. Um, they also shouldn't panic if their final grades are different. So, for all of our faculties and programs, there are minimums to get in. And if they get in, they're in conditionally. But at the end of the year, to hold on to their admission office offer, they're going to have to maintain a retainer average. So their grades can drop a little bit. It's okay as long as their final average at the end of the year meets that retainer average. They'll hold on to that offer. So they should not panic. But if they are panicking, have them talk to us recruiters. We can help ease their minds. It's now the big note here is that if a student self-reports 100% for an in-progress course, uh, they will end up contacting teachers and the school to make sure that that's actually what the student might actually end up getting. The recommendation is even if a student has 100% when they're self-reporting at that time, they should put 99 because it won't slow down the decision process. And there's a very, very, very strong chance that at the end of the year, they're not going to end up with 100 anyways. So they should just put 99%. It won't impact things if they do that. Okay, so let's show a little bit of the self-reporting process. Again, this is not for BC and the Yukon, so you can just sit back, relax, have your coffee, and ease your minds here. But I'll go through the process and show you what it looks like. It's only available to students who are studying in Canada but outside of BC or the Yukon, or if a student's taking Canadian curriculum outside of Canada, they can also self-report. Uh, Now, students in BC, though, if they are completing the IB diploma, they can choose to self-report their IB diploma. So that is something where hopefully maybe some of you BC counselors were paying attention during that time that I just mentioned this, but they can choose to self-report IB if they think it's going to give them a better chance of getting in. Now, the way that they end up self-reporting is that they go to uvic.ca/application and it takes them to this page and they click on undergraduate studies. They sign in with their NetLink ID and password, which they already have created. And this is a step right here where sometimes students get a little confused on which one is theirs, but it is all students. Check or update your in-progress application down at the bottom. Once they go there, okay, sorry, I lied. That's when they sign in with their NetLink ID. So then once they sign in, that's when they can check their application status and they'll click on view status and summary, and then it shows their checklist. So again, it'll show self-reporting is open as soon as February 15th comes around. This will be hyperlinked in their application checklist, and they can go and self-report, and they click on that, and they go into here, and this is where they can choose either provincial curriculum or their IB curriculum, whichever one's going to give them the best chance of getting in. And once they do that, this is what it looks like. It's a really easy process, drop down menu for each course, the required courses in grade 11, 12, whatever there is. You'll see on the right, the checkbox. If it is a final grade, they can put that mark in, check the box. The online distance course, just as a reminder, they'll only check that box if that online course that they're taking is from outside of your high school and taken through another institution, maybe in another province or just another online virtual school. That's when they would choose an online course. If it's an online course through your school, they just leave it blank is what they do. And then the optional comments at the bottom, that's where your students will say, I love dogs, or I can't wait to go to UVic. Both real comments before. They don't need to do that. 99.9% of students will leave this blank. Just something to keep in mind. Once they put that in, they're going to look at it, they're going to review it, they're going to hit their submit grades because it all looks correct. But, biology 20, they have 90%, not 9%. It looks like it's correct. It will ask them one last time. Yes, I am sure, submit now. So students do have a few chances here to really review it before hitting submit. So hopefully they won't panic if they think they made an error because they had multiple prompts in order to double check and triple check. Once they do that, It'll show the estimated average at the bottom. This example, 84.75. We don't round up, just keep that in mind. We don't round up or round down. Whatever their average is their average. And then in their checklist, it'll show self-reporting is complete. So it's really that easy. And now you know how easy it is as well. So again, if the students are coming to you all stressed about self-reporting, you can remind them it's a very easy process. Okay, about the timeline of admission decisions. Most offers will be made after self-reporting, for across Canada students. For most of our programs, if they're strictly grades-based, usually around 5 days later is when they hear back. For some selective programs like, music or visual arts, anything that requires a supplemental, it could take some extra time. Usually late March, early April is when they start making decisions for those highly selective programs. But once they receive their conditional offers, whether they're from BC or across the country, uh, it is very important that they arrange for final transcripts to get submitted because this is, for some reason, a step that some students just fall down on. And coming from BC and the Yukon, it's often because they didn't choose UVic to the very end of the year. So that's something that, if you ever run into a student that is choose STS and then they get a notification near the end of the year that we don't have their final transcript, that's usually why. If students from Ontario, they'll have their OUAC number that they put in their application. We'll download the official transcript at the end of the year automatically as well. If a student from Ontario doesn't have an OUAC number, they can just arrange, like all the other provinces, to have transcripts mailed to UVic or sent to UVic electronically. From Saskatchewan, there's the new system, MyCreds, will download officially. From Alberta, MyPass will download the official ones at the end of the school year as well. So any other province or territory, though, the school and the ministry has to arrange for it to get sent directly to UVic. Any IB, AP, or dual enrollment courses at a post-secondary, arrange for that official transcript to get sent to UVic. Our institutional code is 0989. So that's something that then we can receive it. But the moral of this story is they have to ensure that they arrange for these transcripts to get sent to UVic as well, because they're not done automatically. And sometimes students do forget this. And we really want these transcripts. I mean, we not only require them, but we do want them so that we can evaluate them for potential transfer credit that will count towards their degree. Very important for those students. Okay, and then some of your students might need to show proof of English language proficiency. This is quite common, of course, and there's ways that students can meet it if they're studying at a Canadian high school for 4 years in a row, so grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, and taking academic English the entire time from grades 9 through 12. If they do that, then they'll meet proficiency. If they're taking 4 years of study at a recognized international curriculum school, but it's all taught in English, same thing, then they will meet proficiency. Or if they get 86% or higher with a final grade in their grade 12 English, they'll meet proficiency. It has to be done within 3 years prior to admission, though. So if you have any graduated high school students or who may be still contacting you, hopefully not after 3 years, but you never know. 86% or higher, final grade 12, they'll meet proficiency as well. The other option is if they're taking any transferable English credits, whether through AP or IB, higher level, or if they're taking it through a local college or post-secondary, they're taking a transferable English that meets our ENPR requirement, that will meet the requirement. Any questions about that or any clarity, uvic.ca/ENPR, or contact your recruiter as well. We're always here to help. Okay, beginning in May, the upcoming May 2026, students will need 3 years of full-time academic studies at a domestic or international curriculum taught in English, but they do also have to have a B in grade 11 English or the equivalent. So this is going to be new starting in May. Instead of 4 years, 3 years, but a B in English 11. O-levels, I don't think we need to worry too much about that right now, but hopefully this will help some of your students meet the proficiency a little bit easier. Very important, though, that they have to have that B in English 11. So just as a reminder, any test scores, they need to be sent directly to UVic if they are taking an English language test with IELTS or TOEFL, which those are the most common two. We won't accept unofficial test scores. They do have to be sent directly to us from those language test-taking institutions. And we won't accept tests taken more than 2 years before the student's application to UVic. So if they took it early in grade 9 or something, they will need to still show proof of English language proficiency. Yeah, if applying to 2026 entry points, we'll accept scores from the online tests as well, through KL, IELTS, or TOEFL. And the deadline for most students to show proof of English language proficiency is at the end of November, or sorry, end of February, February 28th. I don't know why I said November, but what day is it? February 28th. Okay, so if they need any application help, and they do, as we all know that, there's lots to know, and that's what we're all here for. But they should get in touch with their admission assistant if they do have questions about their application. If they're like, who is my admission assistant? Well, about a week or two after they applied, they would have received an introductory email from their assigned admission assistant and with their contact information. So if they have any questions specifically about their file, their application, they should contact their admission assistant. It takes 2 to 5 business days to hear back, especially this time of year. It's a busy time of year. But they will have their contact information. If they really can't find it, they can contact us recruiters and we can look it up in the system and help them with that as well. Okay, the exciting time of when your students are receiving offers and then looking to accept. It's a great time of year. It's always really exciting. This is the time of year that reminds us why we love our jobs, because it is really exciting. These students going to university, we know how much fun they're going to have. They have to pay their acceptance deposit by May 1st, unless it's outlined differently in their admission offer, but in their email, which again, every student will read those emails, especially their acceptance offers ones. But it May 1st, unless it's otherwise noted as a different date, that will reserve their seat at UVic, but if it'll also allow them to register for courses, which this year opens the week of June 8th. If they don't accept their offer in time, they won't be able to register for courses, and that's very, very important. When they receive their admission offer email, there will be a link within that offer email, and it will take them to this page. And really easy, intuitive system now that we have. They can accept their offer. They can look to defer as well. They can decline, which, every once in a while does happen, and there's nothing wrong with that. Go to school somewhere. That's the most important thing. But it's a really intuitive system now, drop down, easy for them to accept their offer, and very exciting. Once they accept their offer by paying an acceptance deposit, we get asked every year, like, has my deposit gone through? And yes, we can look it up for them, but we do try to empower them, as it helps with the transition to starting next fall. The way that they check if their acceptance deposit has gone through, they log in with their NetLink ID and password. They go to their online tools, student services, the finances section, and then account summary by term. If they see the credit within their account, that means it's been accepted. It's also a good opportunity. Like, another reason why we always encourage students to look this up themselves rather than us just telling them if it's gone through, is because they're going to use this online tools, student services area a lot as a student, and we really want them to familiarize themselves with it. And it's really easy to use. So they just sign in, they follow that little path right there into the finances and account summary by term. They see a credit, that means it has gone through. It usually takes, we always say, like, give it a week, and then start checking to make sure it's gone through. There's always that one student who pays and then says, how come it doesn't show up? And they just paid. So lots of students are looking to defer each year, and that's totally fine. I mean, we do offer deferrals each year. It is something that, we always encourage students to keep in mind a few important notes about deferring. They cannot study at another post-secondary institution throughout that year, because they can only defer for 1 year. They can't defer just for a term. They have to defer for the whole year, and they can't take any post-secondary throughout that year. If the acceptance deposit has been paid, it will just be applied to the following September. So, they get the deferral, that's it. They're good to go, and then they just register in courses the following year. By deferring, and this is very important, because we offer that first year guarantee housing, if they don't defer and they just apply the following year, they won't hold on to that guaranteed spot in residence, because students have to finish or graduate high school in June and come to us in September. And if they don't defer, they're not considered direct from high school anymore. If they defer in our system, it keeps them as a direct from high school student, which means they keep that guaranteed spot for housing. They can also defer an entrance scholarship if they receive one. Um, Another thing to keep in mind about deferrals is what we always recommend students do. And I just talked to a student 2 days ago who's thinking about maybe starting in September, but also thinking about deferring. What we recommend is that they still apply for housing, which again opens on Monday. Uh, and then they still register for courses when it opens the week of June 8th. Reason being is because if they decide that they want to start in September, and sometimes they change their mind really late, if they decide they want to start in September, at least they still have that guaranteed spot in residence and they still have all their courses registered in. If they decide to accept the deferral, all they have to do is drop all of their courses that they registered in and then wait until next year. The following year, they'll have to reapply for housing and then they re-register in courses. It's good practice though, but that's all there is to it. But we do recommend that they still go through that process as if they're going to start in September because it is good practice, but it is that safety net in case they change their mind. That's very important. And then the deadline to request a deferral isn't until August 1st. Okay. Now, students are considered for admission-based scholarships based off of grades automatically by submitting their grades. Um, we look at the required grade 12 courses or the IB ones, but we're automatically considering them for these grades-based entrance scholarships. A lot of your students have already received them. If you're a counselor from outside of BC or the Yukon, your students still have to self-report. That's very, very important. So do keep that in mind. But they're automatically considered for these. We do have some application-based ones. These don't open until February 15th, so that's the same day that self-reporting opens. As soon as February 15th opens, they can start applying for these specific criteria ones. They do have to have their interim grades or self-reported grades in by March 15th to be considered. The deadline isn't until April 30th. The reality of these specific criteria scholarships is they're not going to be eligible for most of them because that's just, the donors set the criteria. They're really specific, but we still recommend they go through all of them. It doesn't take long to go through them. They'll know right away if they're ineligible. But we always say, even if they think they're remotely eligible for any of these, they should apply for them because you never know. And free money is always the best type of money. If you have any onshore international students that are going to that you've been working with and go to your school, we have some great scholarship program for them this year. Minimum 85% or higher. They're eligible for the UVic International Entrance Scholarship, which is $15,000. In addition to that, if their average is a minimum of 90, like all other domestic students, they can also still receive a minimum $3,000 up to $6,000 for those. Again, from outside of BC or the Yukon, they have to self-report to be eligible for these as well, for these onshore international students. The scholarship offers are sent through email, so that's something, again, encourage your students like we do to check every day, read those emails. But they end up accepting it through their online tools account, and it is really important that they do accept their entrance scholarship. Excuse me. Even if they don't know if they're going to accept an offer to UVic, they should still accept their entrance scholarship. That's really important. By accepting their entrance scholarship, it doesn't mean they're accepting their offer to UVic, so they should accept it though. The funds are deposited into their tuition fee account in the first few weeks of classes, and it'll be applied towards their winter session from September till April. Students who don't receive an early scholarship offer, once we get their final grades, we're still going to evaluate them. So if it turns out that their final average meets the minimum, we will give them an offer. That also goes for students who receive an entrance scholarship. If once we get their final grades and we confirm everything, if their average goes higher and puts them into a higher scholarship tier, we'll adjust it upwards. Conversely, if it drops below into a lower tier or below the minimum, we'll adjust it downwards or rescind it. So if they receive an entrance scholarship or an offer, they still need to finish strong. Okay. We'll talk a little bit about on-campus housing. Guaranteed spot for first year. That's coming directly from high school. I mentioned this earlier, but they graduate in June. They come to us in September. They have to accept their offer of admission by May 1st, and they have to apply to residence by May 1st. I did mention it opens this upcoming Monday. If your students already have an admission offer, like an early offer, and they are looking to apply to residence, we recommend they apply to residence as soon as it opens because it helps increase their chances of getting the preferences on their housing application met. So the sooner they apply to residence, the better. Yes, technically students can apply to residence before receiving an offer, so that's something to keep in mind as well. But as long as they apply between February 2nd and May 1st, they will get that guaranteed spot for on-campus housing. Room offers start going out in May, potentially even sooner this year. We'll see. They're always trying to send out those offers early. Residence application fees are non-refundable. Just a little note. When they apply to residence, though, we get asked all the time, what's the best building? There's no such thing. There's pros and cons of every building and every different room style. Really, what we recommend the most are these living and learning communities. These LLCs, being destination university like we are, this is a great way for students to meet similar students, similar mindset right from the very first day. Talked to two students yesterday from out of province. They're both interested in recreation and outdoors and just being healthy and active. Well, I recommended the health and wellness community. They were both from different faculties because that is what happens as well. Even if students go into the art collective, they could be engineering students in arts collective. They could be fine art students. They could be humanities, science, doesn't matter. They just have that similar interest. It's a great way for them to meet like-minded students and start forming those friendships right away. Okay, let's review. It's a lot of information, taking lots of notes, hopefully writing down lots of questions for the end. Uh, as a reminder, they do have to submit English language proficiency if English is not their first language. That's the end of February if it is required. Students from out of province or if BC students that want to report their IB diploma, they have to self-report by March 15th. It opens February 15th, so they have a month-long window to do that. Also opening February 15th, but ending on April 30th, those specific criteria, entrance scholarships, highly recommend that they go through those ASAP to see if they're eligible. If once they receive an offer, that's great. It's always exciting. They have to accept that offer by May 1st by paying a deposit, unless the acceptance deadline is different in their admission offer email. But for the high majority of students, it's going to be May 1st. And they also have to apply to residence by May 1st. Again, it opens Monday. As long as they apply between February 2nd and May 1st, they'll get that guaranteed spot for on-campus housing. And course registration opens the week of June 8th this year. I'll touch on a couple of things coming up here, but that's something to keep in mind. We give a lot of support starting in May, leading up to course registration on how to prepare for course reg. And then of course, they have to arrange for an official transcript to be submitted to UVic. Very important. Unfortunately, lots of students just forget to do this, but they will be reminded. But hopefully with us, with you, we can all catch as many students as possible. Okay, what's coming up? Well, quite a lot. We got some virtual spotlights coming up. So write down this link, uvic.ca/join-us. Very important campus spotlights. These are coming up in March. We got a residence spotlight, recreation and wellness, the Center for Accessible Learning, Cal, great department. And for a lot of your students on an IEP or an IPP, always recommend that they participate in that spotlight because there's lots of great information about that. We will also have some faculty-specific spotlights coming up in March. So lots of good virtual events. Again, uvic.ca/join-us for students to register in those. You can also register in any of these counselors if you want to learn more. But these are great support webinars. Starting in May, we have program planning sessions, virtual sessions through academic advising. They talk to students and show them what their program planning worksheet looks like for their program. And then us recruiters will end up offering Reg 101 sessions. This is where we teach them how to prepare for course registration. So we teach them how to use the timetable builder, tips and tricks about building their timetables, allocating study time and yoga time, whatever it is. We give them a lot of tips and tricks. It's a really, really strong support webinars that we offer, and we encourage them to participate in these because it gives them a month and a week or so to really prepare. And then when their day and time opens, the week of June 8th, they're going to be fully ready and on the computer to the minute, hitting refresh. And then when it's their time, the actual registration part's the easy part, but is only easy if they participate in these webinars so that they know how to do it. So we're gonna end up sending out email invitations and everything to this. So plant the seed, but great support webinars for them. And then eventually with Course Reg, which we teach them in our Reg 101 presentations, but they will receive an email that they can then check their registration date and time, and we show them how to do that in those webinars. So plant that seed. The other seed that you should plant is Explore UVic. Again, it's going to be at the end of November on the Saturday this year, November 28th. Amazing day. It's always so much fun. It's just one of the best. I mean, it's the best event that we have throughout the year. It's we have faculty and campus partners, and even vice presidents and presidents and deans, and just professors and sample lectures and student panels. And it's such a fun day to bring students and parents to campus. They should step foot on campus if they can, and this is the best time to do it. Yeah, we know the date already. It's picked Saturday, November 28th, 2026. So plant the seed, encourage students that are thinking of UVic to visit UVic, especially at the end of November. And then again, they should step foot on campus as if they can. We offer in-person campus tours every Monday to Saturday. No statutory holidays, no Sundays. But online, we offer a campus tour video and a virtual tour, so they can go to uvic.ca/tours to register or to view any of these. Always important to step foot on campus. Okay, so what's new at UVic? Some really exciting new things are happening on campus. One of them is that our new Indigenous Law Wing is open. If you don't know yet, we have the world's first Indigenous Law program at UVic. It's a new home for this program and these students. It's a beautiful building. It's home to the Faculty of Law's JD and JID program. It's again, first law program in the world for Indigenous law. Really, really excited and proud about this. Like the design even features some of the Douglas fir that they felled within the forest, which is very cool. Adding that little sustainability factor. Beautiful, beautiful building. Drive by it every day on my way home from work when I'm on campus. Can't wait to go inside it because it's now completed. Okay. We also have a new engineering computer science expansion for civil engineering students. This is going to be expected to be done this year in 2026. It's underway. It's beautiful facilities. It's got a new high bay research and structures lab. So nice and high, really high ceilings, and then students get to build some pretty incredible things. But it is a new space for this learning and research lab. So it's a really exciting time for those students looking to enter into that area. It's just more research areas, more study space, and for civil engineering students. It's always nice when you start to get some new buildings on campus. It's always exciting. Now, a big change for a program that is a very popular program is our commerce program. In the past, our commerce program had the 2+2 structure. So the electives were front loaded into the first 2 years. It's not like that anymore. We heard from students and us recruiters, we hear it a lot. They ended up making the changes accordingly where students can now start to take business focused content earlier in the degree, which is great. It offers more flexibility for them. They can now complete a minor with the commerce program, which is fantastic because in the previous structure, it wasn't possible. Now it is. There are some new specializations as well. Accounting and finance. There's an AI management specialization, which is pretty cool. They restructured the work experience model, so now there's 2 integrated and 1 optional. And then the cohort starts in January of year 2. So yeah, really great changes, super exciting. looking forward to this and having the new intake of students starting this new structure of the program. And then, of course, the entrance scholarships for onshore international students is new. So I mentioned this earlier, excuse me, but 85% or 30 IB points, they're eligible for $15,000. They're also eligible for the regular domestic entrance scholarships. So as an example, like an international student graduating from Mount Douglas with a 98% would receive 21,000, so 15,000 international plus the $6,000 domestic. So that's new this year as well. And that is what we have for you for this update. Hopefully you found this to be informative. And this, again, this is what we talk to students about. A couple of the updates we don't include with the student presentation, but all of the reminders, the next steps. The whole point of this is just to support your students, and that's what we offer. And we thank you for supporting your students and connecting with us all the time, because the relationship that we have with all of you is super valuable. I'm sure you all believe that as well, and have experienced it with us. So thanks so much for this, and we will now end the presentation and open it up for a Q&A within breakout rooms.